So let's see what the news has in store for us this week. We'll go to Copilot first. So here are the most significant UK news stories for the past 7 days. Top UK news stories. Local democracy investigations, council finance, housing failures and procurement scandals. It's all very political again this week. So that's Copilot's top of the heap. Independent local outlets like Bristol Cable, Sheffield Tribune, Manchester Mill have focused heavily this week on emergency budget measures in several councils facing insolvency. We've had this over the last few weeks. We've talked about misappropriation of funds and the possibility that they're probably not doing what they're supposed to be doing with their money. Exposés on housing associations failing safety inspections. We know that as far as I'm aware, the landlords, I think there's a Landlords Act, or there's a certain legislation that landlords have to abide by, and that's been updated, so that may have something to do with that. Investigations into private contractors overcharging councils. So maybe that's why they're going into insolvency, possibly. Inference based on ongoing reporting patterns from these outlets. So yeah, these are things that we have been looking at and have been brought to our attention over the past few weeks anyway. But yeah, not so great. Number 2, environmental protests and policing. Non-mainstream outlets such as Novara Media and Open Democracy have highlighted arrests and police tactics used against Just Stop Oil and anti-airport expansion activists. New scrutiny over the Public Order Act after several high-profile protest detentions. Well, the Public Order Act, I think, was part of the Police and Criminal Justice Bill that was put through it went through the House of Commons. It sat in the House of Lords. So I have a feeling that that's gone through now, and there has been quite a lot of backlash over it because the police now have what are classed as extraordinary measures where they can preemptively stop protests. And in this country, it's our only means of being able to tell the powers that ought not to be exactly how we feel. And the fact that we're really not very happy, we basically protest. We gather in the streets and we shout a lot. Sometimes it's a silent protest, but invariably it's a shouty protest. And we shout a lot and we hold banners and we tell people that are in those powerful positions that we're not very happy. And they just don't want to hear it anymore. So they've brought in this Public Order Act where you can just be arrested for not shouting, just holding a banner and wearing a T-shirt that's against their wishes. So, yeah, freedom of speech has completely disappeared. We have become a dictatorial state. Point 3, workers' strikes and union actions. Independent Labour-focused media. The Canary, Tribune, Labour List have covered ongoing National Health Service junior doctor and consultant pay disputes. We have covered this before, and I keep saying that our government do not allocate enough funds to our National Health Service. They don't allocate the required amount of funds to our justice system. And as things have changed over time, those funds have not increased. So, but we're quite happy to give billions to Ukraine. Rail and bus worker negotiations in Northern England. We have a fabulous rail and bus network in the north. We have it in the northeast. I don't know about the northwest, possibly not so great. It just says Northern England. So that's probably anything north of the Tees, the Tyne to the Tees kind of area. University staff organising around marking boycotts and pay gaps. So it's all over money. Inference based on typical weekly reporting. So this is all about money. when it comes to the university staff and the junior doctors and the rail and bus negotiations. The cost of living, and we are in what they class as a cost of whoever they are, we are in what they class as a cost of living crisis, and housing is going up, the energy prices go up, food prices go up. However, wages do not rise to reflect the increase right the way across the board of everything that we have to pay out. So it's not surprising that workers are going on strike and the unions are taking action. That's what unions are for. So we'll keep an eye on it and see where it goes. Point 4, UK immigration system failures. Again, something that we've had quite frequently. Alternative outlets have continued to report on conditions inside asylum accommodation centres, legal challenges to Home Office decisions, and local councils resisting placement of asylum seekers in unsuitable housing. So, as opposed to the previous immigration system failures where people were shouting and hollering about the people that were coming into this country, now we're looking at conditions for the people that have come into this country. I have deliberately, I think I mentioned it last week, taking a bit of a hiatus away from social media because my emotional and mental health is much better for it to not trawl through social media every week. So as opposed to going on once a day and just checking to see what's been going on, I cut that down over the last week or so, or the last 2 weeks. I cut it down to just going on a couple of times a week. And I must admit that this week I've only been on once. So when it comes to the social media side of things, I haven't been keeping up with the news cycle because I'm acutely aware that the algorithms on all of the social media websites, all of them, are trying to funnel your vision into what the people who own those sites would like you to see. And that's not necessarily what I want to see. I would like a less biased view of the news. And even though we have different social media sites, they are all owned, totally owned by billionaire, oligarchical type people that have an agenda. So X, Elon Musk, funnels you into what he would like you to see. Facebook, exactly the same. So I haven't seen anything about this. However, people who come to this country that are suffering in their own country, they're coming here because they are trying to escape from situations that they have found themselves in. So to be in unacceptable accommodation with our country allowing them to come here, if they're allowing them to be here, they should be making sure that the conditions that they're living in are acceptable, in my view. Okay. Point 5, tech surveillance and civil liberties. You know, this is one of my favourites. Having gone over the last 7 weeks so far, we've been covering the Digital Bill of Rights, and I've been doing each article each week so that it's in bite-size, easy to understand kind of sections. So tech surveillance is part of that, and our civil liberties, the fact that we're having them trampled all over, is part of that as well. I don't go off on a tangent when I do my Wednesday research hubs on the Digital Bill of Rights that I've put together. But yeah, it's very uppermost in my mind at the moment. So civil liberties oriented outlets, Big Brother Watch and Open Democracy. I've spoken to you about Big Brother Watch before, and I've shown you some of their posts on Twitter. So they have focused on the expansion of facial recognition trials by UK police. And this is what we said. We're doing it in London. It's one of the worst cities for crime. So we're going to roll it out in London. And I said at the time, it won't stay in London. It will end up going into every town and city in our country. And it is. Newcastle has got cameras everywhere, absolutely everywhere in the city centre. So expansion of facial recognition trials by the UK police, yes, all over the country. Concerns over new data sharing agreements between government departments. That's covered in the Digital Bill of Rights. They cannot do the sharing thing. Not only can they not share between government departments so that you are basically identifiable by a nominated number, an identifier in some way, they can't share it with outside organisations either. People like Palantir. That's all covered in the Digital Bill of Rights too. And local councils adopting AI-based monitoring tools. Another thing that's covered in the Digital Bill of Rights, that you have the right to be monitored, and basically you have the right to a human person to monitor you. So if there is any reason that a local council needs to monitor you, then that should ultimately come down to a human doing that job, because AI does not have the nuance that a human has when it comes to dealing with situations and problems and concerns of a human person. So, yeah, so very concerned. Civil liberties, yeah, being crushed, absolutely trampled upon in this country. They would like to say that we're one of the best countries for freedom of speech and civil liberties, but we're not. We really, really aren't. Okay, so why this list is inference-based. Okay, well, we won't go through that. It's just talking about different outlets that Copilot has looked through. So nothing from a health and wellbeing point of view, unless you're just, like I said before, pig sick of all of the dictatorial stuff coming from our government and the fact that they won't fund people that need it in the National Health Service and in the justice system, and so on and so on and so on. So unless you're pig sick of all that and it's affecting your mental and emotional health, nothing else that I would really kind of concentrate on when it comes to Copilot. So we'll go to Claude and we'll ask Claude the same question. So here's a roundup of the top UK news stories according to Claude. Here we go. Top of the heap, Labour in crisis. Wes Streeting's resignation, which we already knew about, and Makerfield by-election, which we kind of already knew about as well. That's the Andy Burnham thing. Health Secretary Wes Streeting resigned from government in mid-May, which we already knew, stating that he had lost confidence in Prime Minister Keir Starmer's leadership. So has the rest of the country. You and everyone else, mate. Following his resignation, Makerfield MP Josh Simmons stepped down from his seat to allow Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham to contest the resulting by-election. The Makerfield by-election on the 18th of June is now widely regarded as the most consequential UK political battle since the 2024 general election. A high-stakes gamble for Burnham's prime ministerial ambitions. A reform win there would be seismic, demonstrating the party's ability to defeat a high-profile Labour figure in a historically safe seat. Well, as I told you, Labour lost a ton of seats in the northeast. I'm not sure. Well, obviously, Manchester haven't had their elections yet, or haven't had their by-election yet. So, yeah, Newcastle and Gateshead, Labour lost quite a lot of seats, 38 all told in our area, and that's been a historical Labour stronghold for a while. So the fact they lost their seats there, it would not surprise me if they didn't lose their seats in Manchester as well. But if Reform get in, just a different cheek to the same backside, really. Now, kowtow to the global cabal, and they will do as they're told, or they'll be rapped on the knuckles. And the All the policies that are in place that Labour have put in will continue under any other government, because it's not our country that's dictating that. It's the global people that are dictating what is happening in our country. We are captured completely, and we don't have one politician that wouldn't follow the same suit as the awful, awful Starmer that we have at the moment. So whether he stays or whether he goes doesn't make any difference. It's not going to change. And like I said last week, the old quote, if voting made a difference, they'd make it illegal. So, yeah. When we actually realise that instead of fighting amongst each others and fighting our neighbours and getting the hump with people who are standing next to us, when we stop all that and we actually realise that we are the many, we are the many, they are the few, and then we disband our government and we ask all the people who don't vote at the moment, why don't you vote and what would you like to see? And once we start getting back to the common man and we start getting back to an understanding of what our country needs for our country by our countrymen, then I think we'd be on the right track. But at the moment, with all this global cabal puppeteering our little politicians, it's never going to happen. Point 2, grocery price cap chaos. The Treasury has been pressuring grocery chains to adopt voluntary price caps on staples such as bread, eggs, and milk as part of the government's response to price increases worsened by the ongoing conflict in Iran. Again, it's the ongoing conflict in Iran. That's why our prices are going so high. The plan was announced and scrapped by Chancellor Rachel Reeves within 24 hours. Drawing ridicule from all sides. The SNP described the reversal as embarrassing, noting that Labour had been attacking their own similar food price cap policy just weeks earlier. I think it's really interesting that if you look at the prices on the Houses of Commons and their little cafe where they all eat, their prices are really, really low. So a price of a meal for like in the House of Commons is really cheap. Just like the beer, evidently, it's really cheap. Comparative to what we would pay if we went out for a meal. Now, I don't know if that's got anything to do with this grocery price cap, but it just seems to be, what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander. And maybe they're getting the hump because their prices in the House of Commons has gone up for their lunch or for their dinner in the House of Commons, possibly. But we're all struggling. Point 3, Labour fake independent candidate scandal in Tameside. 5 people were arrested over Labour's alleged fake independent candidate scandal in Tameside in the run-up to local elections. The incident added further fuel to accusations of electoral bad faith against the party during an already turbulent month. Oh, dear. Well, I would argue that Labour is fake. Labour is nothing like it used to be. Labour used to be for the people. The Labour movement was to support the people and look after the people. And since they've been in power, they haven't done that at all. So if we're talking fake, they may well need to look in their own mirror. Point 4, reform UK's overtime tax policy controversy. Oh, dear me. Reform's proposed overtime tax policy was torn to shreds by critics this week, with commentators and opposition politicians pointing out significant economic and practical flaws in the plan. A rare stumble for the party that has seen surging in the polls. Dear. It's not a rare stumble. I think you'll find that Mr. Farage stumbles quite a bit. And his policies aren't really that great either. But people seem to like him. I don't know whether... It's interesting for me because I don't know, because I don't like any politicians, as you might have gathered. But it's interesting for me to listen to what people have to say about Farage, because I'm not sure whether people actually really like him or they just really, really hate Starmer. because that's how it feels. It's like they don't particularly like Farage. They just really, really don't like Starmer. Point 5. Greens Makerfield candidate withdraws after Israel lobby pressure. Chris Kennedy withdrew as the Green Party's candidate in the Makerfield by-election after what the Canary described as an Israeli lobby pylon. The episode sparked significant debate about political intimidation and the limits of pro-Palestine advocacy within electoral politics. I've told you, I've brought this to you, we all signed, or all, me and thousands of other people, enough for it to get to the House of Commons for a debate, signed a petition looking into Israel's lobbying of our politicians, and they refused to look into it. They point blank refused. However, I have a little bit of an update. On that. They actually sent me a letter, because obviously I signed the petition. They sent me a letter saying that they are going to debate the pro-Israel lobby influence on our politicians. And they'll post it when they do the debate, they'll post it so that any Tom, Dick or Harry, you, me, Joe Schmo public can go watch it if we want to. So I will be riveted to that. I will be interested in seeing. And on the letter, it did give me the date, but I can't remember exactly what date it was. So they've reversed their decision because they staunchly said, no, we're not going to debate that. We're not going to talk about that at all. But I think they are understanding that the majority of our country are sick of the Israeli influence in our politics and our politicians' policies and everything else. So they seem to have backtracked, but I will bring more of that information to you as I have it. Point 6. DWP extends PIP reassessment period but excludes under 24s. The government committed to a wider review of the PIP assessment process led by Sir Stephen Timms, with recommendations expected in autumn 2026. Meaning immediate changes to eligibility have been held back, but significant uncertainty remains over what future reforms could look like. A DWP extension to the reassessment period was announced, but notably excluded those under 24, drawing criticism from disability advocates. Yeah, I can see why it would draw criticism from disability advocates. If you are a parent of a child who has a disability and you are the carer for that child, then there is some form of help that you can receive. And when that child comes of voting age, when that child comes of age in this country, then they are eligible to move from the benefits that the parents have received into, if they're in the disability category, into being responsible for their own claim. And what our government are now saying is, oh no, if your parents have been receiving some form of disability benefit for you as a child up until the age of, for example, 18, because we deemed it necessary in order for you to get the care that you needed. And then from 18 to 24, for that 6-year period, no, we're not going to even look at it. There won't be an assessment period for you because you've been excluded because you're under 24. Makes no sense at all. That makes no sense. And I can see that becoming a health and wellbeing issues, not only for the children and the young adults that are disabled, but also for the parents that are having to wade their way through the treacly mud that is the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions. It's absolutely horrific. It's really terrible. So I can see that being a big issue. I'm not sure why they have held off on the changes that they wanted to make. Maybe it's because of the backlash from advocacy groups, possibly. I'm not sure, but I'm sure more of that will unfold as it goes along. Point 7, Peter Mandelson arrested over Epstein links. We already know. Ongoing fallout. Claude's covered himself. This isn't new news, but it's ongoing. While the initial scandal broke in February, the fallout has continued into this week. Mandelson, who twice had to resign from government during the Blair years over financial and ethical impropriety, which Starmer knew about, which the whole party knew about, had more recently served as UK ambassador to Washington before his arrest in connection with the Epstein files. Newly released US Justice Department files appeared to show Mandelson received money from Epstein and leaked a confidential government briefing to him, an ongoing scandal continuing to embarrass the Labour government. It does continue to embarrass the Labour government, but they're just completely ignoring it. They're trying to concentrate on all of the other things, like the fact that Iran is affecting our cost of living, blaming everything on other countries. They'd rather look at that, and they'd rather support the illegal war against Iran than they would to look at the fact that Mr. Mandelson was doing naughties. Oh dear. Okay, so that's it. That's it from Claude. Oh, it has become comical when it comes to our news. Oh dear. So we'll ask Grok the same question and see what Grok comes up with. So here are the top news stories according to Grok for the past 7 days. I knew this would come up on one of them. Record May heatwave and water safety concerns. We spent the best part of the first bit of this year being really concerned about flooding. And the fact that there was, we had excess water and it was flooding and, it was a catastrophe. And now we have a catastrophe over water shortage. Water safety, sorry, not shortage. But record May heatwave. The UK experienced its hottest May days on record. Did you enjoy the May heatwave? I don't think it's over yet. With temperatures hitting 34.8 to 35 degrees. That's not really that hot. That's really not that hot. It's May. It's a nice May. This led to multiple drownings, at least 6 to 9 reported in open water incidents over the bank holiday weekend. That's not so great. Authorities issued strong water safety warnings, urging caution during the heat. Okay. Doesn't give us very much detail surrounding any of that. I mean, possibly people going in the water at the seaside and things like that. I mean, I'd have to look at how many drownings roughly during a really hot period we normally have. But I would not say that it's a heat wave. I mean, I've seen various, when I checked the media over the weekend, because it was very, very hot, there was a general consensus that it was so hot. It was like inferno hot, and it just really wasn't inferno hot. But this country seems to have gone into a position of extremes. Like when it's raining and it's like, we're flooding and it's terrible, and now we're heat wave and it's terrible. Oh. Okay, point 2, ongoing small boat crossings and migration debates. Small boat arrivals across the English Channel have continued, with significant daily numbers during warmer weather, spikes of plus 300 plus on some days, contributing to over 200,000 total since 2018. So that's quite a long time. Like, we're in 2026 now. 2018, 200,000. Alternative coverage highlights persistent pressure despite government claims of progress on net migration, down to 171,000. Critics in non-mainstream spaces point to smuggling tactics adapting to patrols and question enforcement effectiveness. So, in other words, the people who are coming over on the small boats are very aware of the tactics that are being used to stop it. So they're circumventing those. We know my view on small boat crossings and the migrant debate. If we weren't so actively getting involved in their country's wars by supporting the people that are conducting those wars, then people wouldn't be leaving those countries. It's the symptom. This is the fallout. It's like banging your head and then saying, oh, my head aches. I've got a headache. Well, if you hadn't banged your head, you wouldn't have a headache. It's probably not a nice analogy, but this is the headache from us banging the head. Point 3, Tony Blair's sharp critique of Labour and Starmer. Former MP Tony Blair, who I cannot stand. Oh, I cannot stand Tony Blair. Publicly criticised the current Labour government for lacking a coherent plan. I wonder if he felt like that when he decided, it was Tony Blair that decided on the Iraq thing, wasn't it? It was Tony Blair, I'm sure it was. He didn't seem to have much of a coherent plan with the weapons of mass destruction hoax. Warnings against lurching left, rejoining EU structures, rigid net zero policies, and unsustainable welfare pension spending. Well, I mean, I did hear that evidently they're going to do away with our pension. They're going to spend our pension for us. So if you've paid into your pension, they're not going to let you have it. I don't know how true that is, but it was something that was being bandied around on social media. His intervention via essays and interviews fueled talk of Labour infighting and leadership challenges, with figures like Andy Burnham mentioned in speculation. I just don't think Tony Blair has the right to say a damn thing. I think Tony Blair should be behind bars, personally. So I think he's got a bit of brass neck coming out and telling anybody else what he thinks they're doing wrong. So we'll ignore him. Point 4, Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon's husband, embezzlement admission. The ex-SNP chief executive pleaded guilty to embezzling £400,000 from party funds. So that's you pay your SNP dues as a local general Joe Schmo, and yeah, he's appropriated 400,000 of that. This story gained traction in outlets covering Scottish politics and SNP accountability issues. I mean, when a politician can claim for a second house that they're renting out to a colleague and charge the taxpayer for that, because we pick up all that as taxpayers, we pick up all of that, all of those expenses. Yeah, it goes right the way through our government, which is why they need to be disbanded, which is why the people need to come together. Point 5, Labour internal tensions and reform UK scrutiny. It's all political again. Discussions around Labour's direction. They're a headless chicken. They haven't got a direction. Potential leadership plots involving Burnham, who's a staunch Zionist, so we don't like him. And economic pressures, borrowing costs, inflation easing, but grocery prices still notable. Reform UK faced reports of internal debates over policy, deportations. Broader chatter on X and alternative sites includes scepticism about two-tier policing, interrogation, and long-term demographic economic impacts. So that's what X would have us be looking at, all that kind of stuff. So Elon Musk, for some reason, wants to dip his hand into English politics. I think, not the time that Tommy Robinson had his rally over a couple of weeks ago, but the time before when Tommy Robinson had his rally, Mr. Musk decided to get involved. Not that he's got anything to do with British politics, but, Point 6, the National Health Service doctor strikes and healthcare strain. Resident doctors in England announced another round of strikes, reported as the 16th over pay disputes amid ongoing discussions of National Health Service waiting lists, capacity and reform needs. We don't pay our doctors what they're worth for the hours that they do, for the If you just think about the amount of preparation that goes into becoming a doctor, they don't do it for the money, but they need to live just like everybody else does. They need to have a wage that can cover what their expenses are. And when we're expecting doctors to work the hours that they work due to them being inadequately funded in the National Health Service in order to bring the waiting lists down, when we're expecting them to work those extra hours, they need to be paid adequately, compensated for the work that they do. And they're not adequately compensated at all. And it's abysmal. And it's down to our government not managing the money properly. Again, disband the government. Other notable mentions: defence. UK and Poland advancing a treaty to counter Russian threats. I really don't think Putin is interested in the UK. I can't see it. I can't see it. From an interest point of view, when it comes to Russia, I think he's probably taking a look at us and looking at it as one of those sitcom TV show things. He must look at the UK politics and think it's some sort of sitcom, because that's how we view it, and we're the citizens. I mean, I saw a video ages ago about a man who actually was he was appealing to Mr. Putin, to President Putin, and saying like, "Oh, like we're sick of it. The UK people don't think you're a threat at all. Like the UK people just want to get on with their lives. We just want our economy to work, and it doesn't at the moment." And I think there was a little bit of him that was kind of like, "Could you come over and sort us out?" Which made me laugh. I was like, well, somebody needs to do something. Like it's, our citizens, we need to band together and we need to do something about those pathetic politicians that we have. We need to get rid of our political system and start again. Economy. Mixed signals with easing grocery inflation, but concerns over borrowing, energy costs linked to the global events, of course, and long-term fiscal sustainability. So it's all very political again this week. We've had one about the weather and the fact that it's hot. I suppose they've got to throw that into the news cycle just because it can't all be about how crap our politics are. But with regards to anything else, that was it. It's all political again. And once we all realise that we are the many, they are the few, we can come together, and we need to do it before they've got the surveillance everywhere so that they can stop us. Oh dear. But for now, that was the news for this week.